Welcome to the Stick to the Plan podcast. Michigan's elite political podcast is about to begin, live from the birthplace of the Republican Party. Let's gather under the oaks like our forefathers did. Now more than ever, it's time to stick to the plan.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome. It's another Monday Stick to the Plan podcast. We got a very special guest today, but we're going to start it off. I'm here. Of course, I'm Kevin, and we're here with Russ.
Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent.
Here we go, another Monday.
Another Monday.
I was somewhat prepared. Well, you know, I talk about this every week about getting guests. And I was watching another stream, which I do often, political streams. You know how I am.
Yeah, right.
And I go, I got to get that guy on the show.
That guy.
So I introduced Scott on, and he jumped right on, and we'll introduce him here in a second.
Okay.
Your intro song, Kevin, I like it more and more.
Yeah, I'm getting more and more into it.
I like it. It's still on the cheesy side.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it, especially since we just did celebrate the birthplace of the Republican Party.
Yeah. That was the whole idea because I knew it was coming up.
So maybe we should change it here in a little while. But I like, you know, I like the heavy metal sound.
Yeah, I'll come up with something.
When you and I haven't talked about this more, and we didn't do clips last week.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, biggest viewership ever last week with Mr. John Smith.
Yeah, Facebook killed it.
So thanks to John.
And we are live on Facebook and on YouTube today and Rumble.
Always Rumble.
Always Rumble.
Kevin's a Rumble guy.
They pay me.
Kevin's a Rumble guy, which is fine. But no, we're on all three platforms, and we're happy about that. It took us a while to get to that Facebook category.
Yeah, it's a lot of restrictions, but we figured it out.
Yeah. I'm going to throw out a disclaimer right out the gate today, Kevin.
All right.
And I've said this before, but it's important that I say this today.
Mm-hmm.
The Stick to the Plan podcast is a Russ and Kevin podcast.
Yes.
And it is not a Jackson GOP podcast.
No.
I am the chairman of the Jackson GOP. I work my butt off for the Jackson GOP. So I do promote a lot of events and things going on in the Jackson GOP, but I want to make it clear, especially today. And we've had other topics before, too. This is not a Jackson GOP podcast. It is the Stick to the Plan podcast, and it's actually owned by Kevin.
Yeah, it's a Grandma's Boy Media production.
Yeah, I'm not nothing but a guy that talks to the microphone on Monday.
Yeah. You don't really.
And by the way, Grandma's Boy production is we said we were going to start doing this more is a business, and you can stream for others. You get a hold of Kevin, and he puts you in the studio and put together whatever you want. You produce Hits Home Jackson.
Yep.
We also, out of this studio, have Star Stripes and Straight Talk.
Yep.
With Dave Jones and Chris Baird. And then, of course, you do Grandma's Boy podcast out of that. And that is nothing political. It's sometimes political.
Yeah, we do.
But it's Kevin political.
I try to stay away from politics, and, you know.
You it's there.
Yeah.
But it's called, I call it Kevin political.
Yeah, I yell about trannies a lot. And,
yeah.
I mean, that can get pretty political pretty fast.
By the way, some of the people who watch Stick to the Plan podcast would probably be, oh, man, if they went over to Grandma's. Some of them have.
But a lot of the Grandma's Boy podcast people come over and watch Stick to the Plan and go, what is this?
Actually, more of them probably stick around on Grandma's Boy podcast than what you think. So.
Yeah, I'm sure. But hey.
All right, let's get on it today. Today we have a special guest. I'm super excited. By the way, I'm Russ. Did you tell everybody?
I think I said that, but
right.
I mean, I think they know who you are.
I'm super excited today. Another streamer from gosh, why am I
Bigger Truth Media.
Bigger Truth Media. Scott McMahan is our guest today.
It's been a long time coming. We tried to have him on, a year and a half ago?
I forgot till you reminded me.
And we had technical difficulties. We had to cancel the whole show.
It was a debacle.
That was a problem.
But we were barely limping by back in them days.
Yeah, that was a bad day.
Yeah, it was tough. It's a lot easier now.
Yeah.
Anyways, pop Scott on there.
Yeah, Scott,
Kevin.
you can come on in anytime. There he is.
How you doing,
All right.
Scott? Good seeing you.
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm
for being here.
I'm excited about it. We're here for a specific topic, and gosh, we can go all day long with Scott McMahan on topics.
Oh, yeah.
I am a subscriber to your Substack. I don't always tune in, but I am a subscriber, and you keep people on their toes. That's for sure, Scott.
Well, thank you, Russ. Thank you for subscribing. And you can do that at biggertruthmedia.com. You can see kind of what I've been researching since I launched about a year and a half ago.
I put all your social medias down in the description of this video too for anyone in the chat that's interested, including your Facebook, your Twitter, your website, and I think that's all of them.
All right. Yeah, I think I watched one of your first streams. I remember how we were dealing with the Christina Caramo thing going on.
Right.
And something you put together got out pretty good, and then I've been watching you ever since, off and on. Sometimes you piss me off, Scott.
Good. Well, I guess that's
You did your job.
And then other times I'm like, oh, that guy's on point.
that's my superpower is pissing people off. So
Yeah, you go either
I
way.
really don't mean to. I don't get to be.
That guy needs to stop.
It's important to be a streamer at all. You have to have that ability to make them mad, but then also be like, but I kind of like him.
There was a point. Yeah, in my household, Mrs. Russ pays the bills. Okay, if it wasn't for Mrs. Russ, I would live in a refrigerator box somewhere, and that's fine. But she's like, "What's this $5 a month?" And then I, at the time, I was mad at you, Scott. I don't even know the issue. Whatever, I was mad at you. I go, the heck with that guy. Go ahead and take that off. And she goes, well, you're going to have to do it. You're the one that subscribed. And you know what, Scott? I haven't done so, and I'm glad I haven't. So,
All right. Well, I'll do my best to try to make you more happy than angry. So
just keep doing.
If the way I started actually is I think it's kind of wild and crazy, but I was just a small town reporter in Lapeer and started looking into why was our state party so divided. And I was looking at as a complete outsider, and I was looking at what the Christina Caramo camp was saying, and then the camp that didn't really have a single leader. It was, as I could tell, it was a true grassroots kind of a group that was working to remove her. And what they were saying was completely opposite. And so, they're kind of both claiming the same thing. So they couldn't both be right. And so that really intrigued me because, trying to discern what is true in a world full of lies. And that's why I called this Bigger Truth. It's like, there's big lies, but there's a bigger truth. And it's not something that I can possess or figure out even. It's just, we follow the evidence where it leads. I had a whole bunch of named whistleblowers that came to me, 5 that on my first story. I've had dozens since, about to tell me about Mike Labadie, who was the shadow operator behind Christina Caramo, and talked about I launched my first published my first story under Bigger Truth Media in January of last year, and that story actually got picked up by Citizen Free Press. It was seen over 200,000 times. I was told that President Trump read it himself. Not a bad start.
Not at all.
No. And so the timing of that was just a few days before Trump sent Michael Whatley, who was then the general counsel for the RNC, to help get involved and kind of expedite getting Christina out of there. So
that was some stressful, difficult times being a loyal party member myself for quite a long time, and trying to be supportive of Christina Caramo at the time. I I was not a supporter of hers into the convention. But the minute she was elected, we're all in. I'm that kind of guy. I'm all in. And we have a state committee member, longtime state committee member. Matter of fact, he was a 2-time county chair here in Jackson and a 2-time district chair, and then went to state committee, Hank Choke. Hank Choke's also a 2020 presidential elector, and he's on the hook for those charges that the prosecuted state attorney general has levied against those 13. But he would come and address our executive committee, and Hank's a farmer, nice guy, but he eased into it. It was months before the problems were real evident to everybody. He kept saying, guys, something ain't right here. Mm-hmm. Something ain't right. He just kept warning the executive committee. And I thought to myself, I might have to start going to these meetings. I'm going to check that out. I'm an ex officio member of the state committee, Michigan GOP state committee. And it was quite eye-opening through that process and everything. And then once that was said and done behind us, I'm so thankful. I hated every bit of it. I don't like the black eye on the Michigan GOP. I didn't like it. And but thankfully, Pete Hoekstra, and some can say some concerns in hindsight about Pete. I loved Pete. You know what Pete did? He tuned out the noise and just focused on winning elections.
And he was willing to work with everybody, and he brought money back to the party.
Yeah.
He went on his hands and knees even to, not literally, but to the donors that Christina had, I believe, deliberately pushed away and bragged about pushing away.
Yeah.
And he brought them back and brought the party together. And I think that you guys and the group of people that really courageously said, now there's something seriously wrong. We don't want to do this, right, but there's something seriously wrong, and we're not going to win in 24 unless we get rid of her. And then, thankfully Trump got involved and helped, and it ended up, that's the reason why we won, I believe. And
I agree. I agree. I'm so thankful that we went through that horrible process. I really am. Jackson was a big part of Trump Force 47. We were fortunate enough to land Trump Force 47 here in Jackson, in the building where we rented our office space, and we combined forces.
In the suite that we're in currently.
Yeah. By the way, they rented from where the office complex where our longtime headquarters was. We had a shoebox of an office.
Tiny.
The Trump Force 47 rented a 10,000 square foot suite that had been empty in this building for a long time, and we ran a heck of a campaign out of this. So there was Trump Force 47 locations across the state, but we had a guy named Scott McGraw part of it, and he showed. I learned so much off that guy, and Jackson GOP went into that campaign with very little money, like a lot of county parties, and it made us relevant and made our people feel like they were doing something to getting Trump elected. They left after, of course, the campaign, and we were like, we don't want to go back to our old office. So, anyways, we figured out how to keep the office. We're here now, and I'm doing this part of promotion. The office building allows us to sublease out some of the space, and Kevin subleases the podcast studio. We have a very professional podcast studio, unlike the one we had before. And then we have a small insurance group that operates out of here a little bit. But I've saved one office for a political candidate or a political organization through the campaign, because I'd like to connect with, I don't care if it's Americans for Prosperity or Turning Point Action or a campaign or that, there's a ton of them out there, that would, with our limited funds, it'll help us stay relevant in the 2026 election, is my thought. So we're not here for any of that, Scott.
But it's good background, right?
It is. And that's where you and I met. We have met a couple of times. Gosh, we ended up on the tarmac of a airport at a Trump event. It was
Yep.
windier than hell that day and hot.
Yeah.
And we ended up on that tarmac. That was an interesting day. But I have to say, I took a picture of being at that event, and Kevin and I use it for the background every now and then. It was a great Trump background stage event, people in it.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at it, sometimes that picture reminds me of the Butler, Pennsylvania picture, Kevin.
Yeah, kind of. And now that you say that, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was actually seeing myself had it, like, pull it up.
Yeah, we use that a lot. We are here today, though, to talk about a topic. And a group of people, a big group of people here in Michigan are at a second attempt to circulate petitions to get the elimination of property taxes on, I think, the 2026 ballot. I've been familiar with this group from day one. Their founder, Kevin, and I here in Jackson, we have a Jackson GOP member who's very significant to us. He does a podcast in the studio.
Yeah.
And the first time around, he was all in, spent a lot of money, just put all in. He scaled back, I think, because of business reasons on this time around. But it's called AxMiTax, and they are aggressively trying to get the elimination of property taxes on the 2026 ballot. Scott, I'm going to say it right here that maybe not most everybody knows. I've been leery of it from the beginning. Okay. As a county chair, I've been I facilitated it to a certain point. We've always had the petitions available at the Jackson GOP to come sign. I've got a lot of members that are all in on AxMiTax, and I get why. I get why. But I'm going to step back a second. I'm always skeptical of citizens' initiatives. To me, until the money that it takes to get these across the finish line is solved, you're wasting everybody's time. The only conservative, and this shouldn't be a conservative issue or not, but it is, let's face it, initiative that has made it to the ballot was Unlock Michigan 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Unlock Michigan 1 came at that with a lot of money.
Yeah, it did.
If you don't have that kind of money, I've said it before, if you don't have that kind of money, don't waste my time. I've tried not to waste my people's time. And I look back at my thought process to that. And last year, for example, when AxMiTax was circulating petitions the first time around, there was another petition out at the same time, and it was local control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They were both circulating at the same time. And there were some that's trying to do both, but most of the time it was people on one side, people on the other. And they didn't get the signatures for AxMiTax or local control, which created a situation to where I'm staring at 1,000 acres of solar panels in my neighboring township. Okay. Because it took that control away from our planning commissions, our local governments. And you and I think Matt Wilk the other day mentioned it. Boy, if all that focus would have been on something like that, we might have got the signatures for that local control.
Well, and I had a theory that it was poorly marketed. The website was ridiculous.
Well, wait, clear up. AxMiTax wasn't. Local control.
Local control, yes.
You hated their marketing, their website.
I like the idea of it, but it's just that I don't think they really tried that hard.
Kevin hated that back then.
I hated it.
But here we are, round 2 of AxMiTax. I think they have pretty good momentum, Scott. But you brought up a few things, and I'm going to let you explain. That has always been in the back of my mind. How are we going to fund local government appropriately? Scott, you're a county commissioner in Lapeer County. I'm a township trustee in Leone Township in Jackson County. I'm recently elected, just like you are. And I don't claim to know everything. I'm not that smart of a guy. But we just approved our budget. And guess what? Russ Jennings and the rest of that board, we got the say on that. Mm-hmm. We're back to losing local control potentially here.
Yep.
Are we
Yep.
going to fund public safety and things like that? I'll let you go from there, Scott. Explain what
Yeah.
led us up to today.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. I think to kind of summarize, and we'll go into further detail on each of these points, but I've got kind of three main points. They're similar to the points that Matt Wilk brought up when I had him on my show last week, on site or over the weekend. But the first one is the point that you already brought up, which is this is, I believe, is a distraction from the vitally important need especially for volunteer labor to help get out the vote for our candidates so that we could take back the state in next year and in next year's election. And so, it initially just set off red flags for me just based on that alone. But the other two issues deal with what AxMiTax actually is. The second one is, like you said, this is an absolute threat on local control. And we'll get more into that and how that is and why that is. But it is, I believe, it would destroy communities and destroy the state. It would have such a harmful impact on the people of the state by taking away our ability to have local control over police, over courts, over roads, drains, everything, libraries, schools, everything that we have local control over now. And you may have frustrations about how that is dealt with in your community, but I guarantee you have more control over that being something that's under a reasonably self-funded local government entity than you would if it were funded by the state and controlled by the state. And so that's the number two. And number three is the math is so bad that this is beyond fairy tale realm. It absolutely does not make any sense at all.
I'm glad you had Matt on over the weekend. I'd seen your first show about it, and then you brought Matt on over the weekend. And just simple math that I didn't even know about. Like I said, I'm not that kind of guy, but it's simple math. There's going to be a significant shortfall.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did the math in my own county, in Lapeer County, of what it would do. And it doesn't make any sense, but it's even worse when you look on the state level. And so if you want to start there with the math, it's actually fairly simple.
Yeah, it is.
So local property taxes in this throughout the state, when you combine all 83 counties and municipalities and school districts, you combine all that together, they bring in a total of $17 billion statewide. And that's from property taxes and millages. And so that would be, if AxMiTax were to be passed, all of that would go away. Now, they claim that they will be able to replace it through by increasing the allocation of state tax receipts from sales tax, income tax, and sin tax, or discretionary taxes.
Right.
But the problem with that is that the total that is received currently, and they say that they can increase that state allotment by 10%, and that will make up that shortfall. The total, the most generous total, according to state statistics, of how much money is brought in from all three of those for the state is $28 billion. So they're talking about increasing the share to communities from those by 10%. That's $2.8 billion. I mean, you can't make up $17 billion with $2.8 billion. It just, it doesn't work. I mean, there's no possible way.
That's not a thing.
Right. Exactly. Those are his exact words. It's just, you can't do it. And so, and he looked at, so if you raise the sales tax to try to make up for that, it would bring the sales tax to 30%, which that would have a much more dire and harmful impact on the low class in particular than as far as, increasing their cost of living than their property taxes do.
Now, it's not like if this were to pass, it's not like the state would ever jump to 30% sales tax, but that's what it would cost to cover it.
Right.
You do know that they would jump to 8. God, I couldn't imagine 10. But there's still a shortfall that you've got to deal with.
Yeah, and regarding that, I mean, we went from 4 to 6% to help alleviate property tax. burdens, but it seems as if that hasn't happened. I mean, I don't understand necessarily where that math comes in either, but
Was that 2% increase? I don't recall. Was that 2% increase to solely alleviate property
I
tax?
think that was the big push for it. I unfortunately haven't looked into
I
it as
don't
deep
recall.
as I could,
Yeah.
or I should have. But yeah, we went from 4 to 6%, and it sounds like that was kind of the big push.
I remember
to
when that happened.
alleviate it, but it didn't happen. The same with the lottery. It's like the lottery was set up, to help the school districts and alleviate property taxes, and that kind of went to the wayward. Like probably a slush fund or back end something went on. The money went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
We've had his name's Dave Jones. He was very instrumental in the first go around with AxMiTax. We had him on the show a couple of times, Kevin.
Yeah, we've had a couple of times.
And they always talk about the buckets. Kevin and I joke
the goddamn buckets.
Kevin and I joke about the buckets. and I think that the first time around, and I think this is the hurdle now, I've always thought in my mind, and this was before listen, I attend most county commission meetings. I attend all township meetings, so I wasn't totally ignorant. But being elected, you start looking at things differently. Everybody gets to see the books, but you're the only one looking at them. We'll bring that up in a minute, Scott, too. It's just interesting. They've always had a hard time explaining how they're going to cover the spread, is what I would call it. And I think that's what's always bothered me in the back of my mind. How are you going to cover the spread? I talked to my county commissioners, County Commissioner Corey Kennedy, Kevin.
Yeah.
My God, he hates taxes.
Yeah.
Scott, you hate taxes. I hate taxes.
I don't think he would like
Absolutely.
taxes.
I can't tell you the last time I voted yes on a millage. I can't tell you.
Right.
Something needs to happen. But that's why I'm glad. And I guess it would have been easy to obtain whether Scott McMahan brought it up or Matt Wilk or anything. But I'm glad that it was exposed and talked about.
And the interesting thing, so it really came up because I saw James Dixon hosting Carla Wagner, who's the founder of it, and their arguments were just purely emotional, and so it's based on they put forward these anecdotes, which are also they're not factual anecdotes, but these anecdotes of senior citizens losing their home over $300. And the reason why that's not factual is because the Supreme Court has actually ruled that in the event that there is when there is a foreclosure and it goes to auction and then it goes to the highest bidder, the county can't keep that difference. All they can take is what they're owed in property taxes. Right. The rest of it goes back to the owner. So, at a property tax foreclosure sale, obviously it gets less than market value. But the other thing is that counties and townships all across the state, it's up to them locally, but they do make serious concessions. I heard that about one township treasurer that actually he'll do a payment plan for people, like $25 a month or whatever it takes and that's not an uncommon thing. I know Genesee County has all kinds of concessions and programs to help people that are facing foreclosure. And also, the reality is that every tax sucks, and every tax is collected at the barrel of a gun by our government. If you think property tax is bad, try not paying your income tax. They'll take not just your property, they'll take your bank account, they'll come into your house with guns, they'll take everything that you have of value, they'll take your vehicles, they'll take everything. Yeah. And, and this is, that's just the nature of tax, because if there's not a penalty, then people aren't going to pay it. And if people don't pay it, then we don't have, another argument that they make is, prior to 1913, there was no income tax and everything was paid by tariffs. The cost of, not just the cost of living. Most people in 1913 were farmers, and, there's a very different lifestyle. There weren't paved roads. There weren't, these large community drains. People just, there wasn't the concentration of living. There wasn't the
Wasn't
kind of
the
sophistication of crime. There, nothing. There wasn't the communication. There wasn't the cost of doing business that we have now. And the thing is that there's another assumption, a huge assumption that they're making, which is that they're stating this assumption as if it's fact, which is that local communities are full of waste and all they do is waste money. And so, like James Dixon, I said, so how do you recommend funding how do you recommend funding local government? And he said, hold a bake sale.
Yeah.
That was his response.
Yeah.
And
I've heard him. I haven't heard him, but I've heard others say that in the AxMiTax world.
I mean, a hook and ladder fire truck costs over $1 million today.
My township a year ago or so, bought a new fire truck that was necessary. Is $960,000.
Nice fire truck, but
it is a sweet fire truck.
It is.
I'm always like, could you have bought the $725,000 one? But that's what it is.
That one had manual windows.
Scott, gosh, this one's hard to talk about, to wrap your mind around. But you're talking about emotion. And I'm around a lot of people, and they come at things in a political, they say it's a political stance, but it's usually emotional.
Right.
And we complain about Democrats being emotional. A lot of Republicans have the same problem, but not on a society type emotion. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Too many things are emotion driven and not factual driven. Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable to me how much hate mail I've gotten over this. And
Kevin and I were getting information fed to us over the weekend.
Constant. I spent 12 hours watching you and reading, and it broke my brain. It's just too much information all at once.
Yeah. I was somewhat familiar, and so I just glossed over it, and I slept well.
That's good.
Just the chat real quick. Karen Wooten in the chat talking about property taxes have existed before 1913. He was talking about income taxes were in 1913. Actually, I looked that up. Property taxes predate the federal government.
Yeah, Kevin did
the research.
Kevin told me that before the show today.
Yep.
And thank you for looking into that. And thank you, Karen.
And also every single state. So there are states that have abolished income tax. There are states that have abolished sales tax, but there is not a single state that has abolished property tax. Now, Florida is talking about that, but you can't compare Florida and Michigan because Florida gets 142 million visitors from out of state every year. And what Ron DeSantis has really led over the last several years since he's been the governor is shifting the tax burden away from residents and towards these visitors. And so there are all kinds of taxes on that target and more heavily burden visitors than residents.
So
we can't do that in Michigan.
Their hotel tax is probably a lot higher than ours. And I was in Florida in the winter, and next thing you know, you're on a toll road. You're driving along, all of a sudden you're on a toll road. They get it from a lot. Until you talked about this late last week and into the weekend, I thought to myself, I would be for the elimination of property tax if we went at it, but I don't think it's practical. But if we went at it like Florida did, the elimination of the income tax, man, I don't know anybody that would. If my wife were to move to Florida, I'm retired. My wife were to move to Florida, she'd get a 4% raise right out the gate. Okay, I get it. All right, and now you have DeSantis floating the idea of the elimination of property tax. And I'm like, yeah, you go, Ron. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, how's he going to do that? This is assumption a little bit on my small brain. I thought I read an article or read up on that a little bit. The Florida state legislature is not for this. Okay. Not at all. It's only a Ron DeSantis thing. Now, I believe the Florida state legislature is all Republican led. It's a red state. And I thought to myself, I wonder why they're not on board with DeSantis on this, Well, probably because of the same issues that you and Matt Wilk have brought up. How do you fill the void? Now, Scott, you just said they're in a unique situation that Michigan isn't with visitors. Yes, Michigan depends on a lot of tourism, but our tourism sucks in the winter.
Yeah. And they've been pushing tourism, and I think that
that's a 365 down there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, I don't know anyone that goes to Florida in July, but
well,
There's some. Yeah, but
I mean,
but the point is that it's a much longer tourist season. But also I think, and that is a really good point, Russ. It may not pass. And there it does face some serious headwinds.
By the way, I think it was in front of their legislature and they turned it down. Here's my
Right, it did.
back of my mind. Ron knew they were going to turn it down. Maybe I'm wrong. DeSantis knew his state legislature was going to turn it down. Maybe it makes him look good because he got the people behind him. I'll eliminate the property taxes now. Maybe that's the game here. What do I know?
Yeah, all benefits, no downside of it. Definitely.
Right. You brought up, we see this kind of like just raw emotional position. And, what I've been seeing is I've been just talking about this for about a week now is there are people who've they have come to the emotionally driven conclusion that property tax is evil. And for some reason, it's more evil than any other kind of tax.
Well, I like the way you broke it down. You don't pay your income tax. They're going to come take your shit.
Oh, yeah.
They are.
Oh, yeah.
So, really, what's the difference here? I get it. They use the granny's going to lose her home that she's lived in for 50 years. But
it doesn't just happen like overnight. And that's the thing that they don't even talk about. I mean, I had a property that I was going through a divorce. There were hard times, with after COVID and stuff, lack of income. And I got delinquent on my property taxes. You get notices all the time. I mean, you can't ignore it.
Kevin lived this with me. I owned a property in the city. I owned a business, and we were struggling, man. I was throwing everything I had, my whole life savings, my wife's inheritance. We threw everything we had at trying to keep that business going. Of course, we got delinquent property taxes. It takes 3 years before they even begin the auction process, and you get so many opportunities. And I remember being in a loop for a couple of years where, I would scramble around and pay the first year just to keep it from foreclosure and forfeiture. There's the whole thing here. I knew it was coming. You did what you have to do. I was in a discussion with Randy Guppy, and I think you're familiar with Randy.
Absolutely.
Randy and I have been working together with him up there with Representative Tom Kuntz, me down here with Kathy Schmaltz, although it's kind of stalled, on yes, we need to get a handle on our property taxes. But I'll tell you where it begins, and that's with the millages and bonds. And Scott, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm brand new on the township board, and that first month, on the agenda was to put the public safety renewal on the May ballot. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I was like, guys, I cannot support this. I'm supportive of our public safety. I love our public safety that we have. I'm a former firefighter. It has to be funded. But I said, I got to vote no. This can't go on to May. It has to go on the midterm and presidential election year. And I was the only no vote. Okay. It is a trick that school boards, the school districts especially, and municipalities do by piping them on to low turnout ballots, special elections that cost the township money to put on. And because of the people that are for it, especially. What was that, Kevin?
I put the button. Sorry. My bad. I was checking the stream.
Was that me?
Yeah, I was checking the stream and on Facebook.
I better change my voice. You sound
annoying all the time.
Very annoying. But I was the only no vote on that. It's a trick they use. And so Randy and I have been trying to push our legislatures to, create legislation that you can only put bond and millage requests on midterm and presidential election ballots. Okay. I was in Lansing. Gosh, whatever reason I'm up there. I'm not up there a lot, but I am. But I ran into Representative Matt Maddock, and I told Randy, I said, when I'm in Lansing, I run into state reps, I'm going to run this by him. Matt Maddock says, I've got one already written. He goes, I can't even get it a hearing. Matt Maddock introduces it every year. All right. And so he sent me the information. I sent it to Randy. We're all excited. I send it to my state rep. He sends it to Tom Kuntz. And then I've since found out, well, we've looked at that and there's goods and bads and this and that. So Randy and I are back to scratch trying to do that. You know what, Scott? It won't solve the problem, but it will begin to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this is the thing that, we should be able to see this in ourselves because we see it so clearly in the left. I mean, that's what TDS is, right? I mean, you talk to people that you can't even reason with them because they're so angry. They're so manipulated into hatred and anger and blind emotion that you can't reason with them at all. And we should be able to recognize that in ourselves because we've dealt with that for years now, and so, but that's what's going on. If you believe, well, property taxes are evil and they're more evil than any kind of tax, and I'm not going to hear anything otherwise, I'm right and you're wrong, and we're just going to disagree on that. Well, you're refusing to actually look at this and to understand that there is no magic bullet utopian solution. And that's what AxMiTax is being presented as. And it is absolutely fairy tale. The math is fairy tale. Everything about it is just completely unrealistic. But it's even worse than that. Fundamentally, you're talking about shifting the control from this money that is coming in from and to local communities, and instead making local communities dependent on the state. Mm-hmm. Now and especially here in Michigan, where we lived under Whitmer's absolute despotism during COVID. And this tyranny from the state. And what this would do is, the first thing it would do is because the biggest expense in every county is the sheriff's department.
Yes, it is.
And it would hamper, kneecap, or even force us to eliminate the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department, one thing that most people don't understand, and I didn't understand until just a few months ago when I became a commissioner, is that so much of the money that comes into the county has actual statutory requirements from the state and even the federal government, depending on where the money comes from, on how that money is going to be spent. There are so many services that we are legally required to provide. We can't just cut them. And
you have to provide a jail.
Right. But sheriff is not one of those.
Jackson, because of the millage failure.
And not only
you have to provide a jail, but you don't have to have a sheriff's department. You don't have to have deputies.
Right. You have to have a sheriff and a jail. And then, but like you were just referencing, Scott, we've had the sheriff on a couple of times. He is obligated to have certain classifications. He can't commingle certain inmates with other inmates, nonviolent, this, that.
Level 1, level 2 can be together.
That whole thing. Yeah. It's not like he can throw them all into one big pole barn and throw them some food 3 times a day.
That's right. I mean, you've got, they need to have technology, they need to have equipment, they need to have training, and the training is so important and so expensive.
We're leading there about local control, and I think this is super important. And here in Jackson County, we had like a 20-year millage that funded a jail that we built 20 years ago. But part of that millage also funded a portion of our sheriff's department. Okay. Well, like normal, they wanted to build a Taj Mahal jail and the voters turned it down. They scaled it back. They turned it down again. Well, they came back with a much smaller scale. And by then voters were beat down, thinking, didn't understand the process. And the sheriff screaming, if this one doesn't pass, it's going to significantly impact services that the sheriff's department offers.
Yeah, it was very bare bones. It was literally, needed services that had to be mandatory services.
But voters didn't understand it because they'd come at this already a couple of times, and that was probably a downfall. But it failed too. Giving our sheriff, I hope I'm right here, $1 million shortfall, okay, going into the budget season. So this is where local control helps. So our county commission, the meeting to approve the budget, which had this huge shortfall for the sheriff's department, went through, and we're going to give a lot of this credit to Commissioner Corey Kennedy. And he sat down and he said, okay, we're going to take $100,000 from the drain commissioner. We're going to take $200,000 from the court system.
Line by line.
Line by line, right on down, to try to minimize the impact of that $1 million shortfall. Now, they did not hit the $1 million mark. I forget what it was. I think it was $600,000, $700,000.
They got fairly close. I mean,
and then the sheriff goes, I can operate with that. But my point here is, your county commissioner, that you can have their cell phone number and you can give input. They'll answer their phone. I don't know a commissioner out there that won't talk to you, right? The citizens had it. By the way, the citizens showed up. They put their input in, and that meeting took forever. It was brutal. It was brutal.
It needed to be done,
but it was necessary. And yes, we have a reduced funded sheriff's department, but it's still, there's cops on the road. We have right,
which is vital, because you lose the sheriffs. I mean, go back to COVID, and just imagine living in a county where there's no sheriffs and there's only state police during COVID.
Wouldn't they have to change the Constitution? I mean, we'd always have a sheriff, but
but no sheriff deputies. I mean, all of the policing is done by the state
there
police.
to represent the sheriff.
Right.
Yeah. But that brings up, the thought process of, okay, currently the school districts throughout the state are funded by a per pupil amount of money that comes from the state every year. Okay. And the state house, they said, yep, we're going to give, I don't know, $12,000 per student. They increased it, whatever they did. The state Senate went home prior to July 1st. They went home. Did not pass a budget. Okay. Did not pass a budget. Now, I'm sitting here like, I don't really care. But that affects the school districts, because they're trying to pass their 2020, 2025, 2026 school budgets, and they cannot do so because there is no state budget. They do not know what they're going to get per pupil. Okay. So they're left in limbo going into the school year, which they've been through this before. Okay. If the townships aren't in control in the counties of the property taxes that are received, and we're relying on Lansing to do that, would put local government in limbo. It would be the same problem.
Absolutely.
The budget would be delayed for sure.
Delayed. You might have to stop all services until the state figures it out. I don't want to wait for them. They're a bunch of idiots up there. I love my state reps, but together, collectively, it's a mess.
We don't live with those state reps either. I mean, like you mentioned, the commissioners all answer their phones. Like Corey, for example, you can wander down, have a burger at the Shamrock local pub, and he might be there. But I was going to say, I have a couple friends who are teachers who are effectively in limbo. They're laid off until the schools figure out their budgets for next year, the 2005-2006 school year. So I mean, it does trickle down effect all the way down.
I as a township trustee, I'm sure as you a county commissioner, if we were sitting there right now waiting for the state to decide what money we're going to receive to operate, it's impossible for me to wrap my mind around. I mean, if it was structured the way the schools, I don't want to depend on the state for that. Scott, another thing you mentioned in your show, as we were approaching our budget in the township that I live in, it's posted online. I was successful at getting our entire packet posted on our website. Prior to me, it wasn't there. But the budget was. Not one person called me concerned about the township budget leading into that. And then when we had the public hearing the day of the meeting, not one person spoke up about that budget.
I didn't even know you guys were doing your budget.
Scott, you told me nobody called you either.
No, nobody has called me. What's interesting. So at the last county commission meeting, it was actually viewed twice as much as the previous record of any meeting, and the focus of all of that was the 15 minutes of my public time that I spoke, and that time, I was talking about this with the budget. I mentioned the threat that AxMiTax and the people that are so upset about the whole idea of property tax to begin with, and what would happen to our county if that happened. And then I talked about some of the ways that I saw that we could potentially reduce our budget. A few weeks ago, we actually approved a property tax increase that was in line with past millages that the voters had approved. And I found out just a few days before we had that vote that we could actually not raise taxes. And I mean, the county commission could actually vote to even cut taxes, even though there's the millage. But what we would have to do is we'd have to figure out within the general fund how to continue to fund government. And so, we'd have to get other cuts through the budget and work through all that. And it is, and so then the budget process starts right after that. I was the only I was the only commissioner that voted not to raise the property taxes at that meeting. And so I'm laying out different ways to cut the budget. And one of them is animal control. Animal control is one of the few non-mandated departments that we have. And so at our animal control,
Here's
we have
controversy right here.
Yeah, and this is where it got, and this is I have heard
all off the rails.
Exactly. And, so I've heard from dozens and dozens of people, absolute just hatred.
Kevin, easy. We're leading into something
about
easy.
cutting animal control, or even just getting to the point, because we have animals. We've got dogs at animal control in our county that have been there we have one that's been there for almost a year and a half that nobody wants to adopt. We've got a half a dozen dogs that have been there for more than 6 months. Nobody wants to adopt these dogs.
All the counties are, I guess it's a no euthanize county, just
right.
like county is,
which actually doesn't mean that they don't euthanize. It just means that they euthanize fewer than 10% of the animals that come in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's no such thing as an animal control that doesn't actually euthanize. It's just that they're below that arbitrary threshold. And so, taxpayers are paying for our animal control to be a long-term care facility for animals that the community doesn't want to adopt. And
so, Scott,
I love dogs, but where are we going to cut?
I like going into this. I do want to go back to government, but this is a good one. When you mentioned that, and when my wife overheard it when I was watching your stream, my wife, who is a cat lover, almost lost her mind, and my wife's pretty level-headed. Yeah. And here's Kevin over here. He's turning a red face thinking about his dog. And
No. But my dog isn't.
Your dog's not going to end up in animal control. I mean,
I said, Scott's got a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. I don't want dogs and cats to be killed, but by no means. But you got a good point, and I don't know what's the longest record animal in the Jackson County Animal Control. Sure. I bet you we have the same thing going on.
I guarantee you there's cats constantly.
One of your people, Scott, in your chat in defense of that said Lapeer County is so the animal shelter is so overcrowded that they oftentimes can't take in new pets. Especially cats.
Yeah,
by the way,
always
this time of year.
Cats.
And so then you've got loose dogs, maybe a mean dog running around the neighborhood that the shelter may not pick up because they have no room for it. So you're really in a circle here of creating your own problem.
Absolutely.
I remember years ago, and it's been past a decade, when we were a euthanized county, and I do remember the outcry of people, and they were all happy when they decided not to kill the dogs anymore. And I get it. But out of my wife trying to wrap her mind around me supporting what you said, Scott, it hit me. And I wondered about this with Lapeer. Jackson County approved a millage to support our animal shelter. So essentially the voters of Jackson County are supporting us housing dogs for a year and a half, 2 years, or whatever long they're there. So that, in my mind, justified okay, Jackson, I'm not going to jump on the Scott bandwagon here. The state start killing dogs. But there's a couple of good points there. That your comment person, if the shelter's full, are people ignoring the loose, mean dog running around the neighborhood? You know?
Well, one thing I can say about that is I personally know somebody who had a dog, adopted the dog. It was a problem animal, couldn't be around their kids, and they took it to the shelter. The shelter said, "Hey, we have no space for it." So they waited until the shelter closed. They tied it up outside the building. Left it.
You get prosecuted for that.
That's actually a crime. Yeah,
it is. Matter of fact,
it should be.
Somebody just recently did that. They're all mad.
I mean, this was years ago. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I'm assuming they would just take the dog in.
They did, but I'm sure though.
But that's more burden.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
They get real mad when you do that. But
sure. They actually, I know our animal control, they actually do background research on people that bring animals in to make sure that it isn't actually their pet. You know, they'll look up on social media. They'll see if they have any pictures of this animal going back several months. Because if that is, that's animal abandonment, and that is a misdemeanor in Michigan. So.
That's a touchy subject.
But it illustrates, though, and this is why I think because it's a touchy subject, it brings up these emotions, and it forces into the conversation the fact that, like, is this John Smith that's commenting here? He says that AI can cut 15% with better systems. That is complete BS. There is no way that AI can cut 15% of a county's budget. There is absolutely no way. Maybe over time, maybe over the next 10 years, there could be some progress towards reducing the budget and reducing headcount by increasing productivity. And I know we're working on that very carefully, bringing in, updating our computer systems, trying to improve our productivity so that over the next couple of years, we can start working towards cuts. It's not going to be 15%. That is completely uninformed and unrealistic and misleading in my view. And that's the kind of thinking that is like, oh, just hold a bake sale. That's not the way it works. I would be absolutely, just like you said, Russ, I would be so delighted if even just one of my constituents gave me a call and said, "Hey, I'd love to look at the budget with you and see where we could make some cuts." Right. I would so love to do that with constituents, but I'm doing it with our finance department. I'm doing it with the other commissioners, but I would so love to do that with other members of the community, because it's all about trade-offs. It's about trade-offs. It's about what services, we can eliminate animal control. Mm-hmm. But apparently the community doesn't want to do that. So, there's
they don't want to deal with the animal themselves.
Scott, is that paid for out of the Lapeer County General?
Yeah, so they're coming to us for $320,000 this year from the general fund. And that's just from the general fund. That's in addition to all the state and federal grants that they get.
Going back to AxMiTax and the out of control millages, like I said, we have an animal control millage here in Jackson. The poor dogs, you played on people's emotions. Okay, I get it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we got to get a handle on these millages. Jackson County has an animal control millage. We have a beautiful facility. I think Kevin thought about moving in there at one time.
Yeah.
Oh, anyways,
once or twice.
Yeah, we actually, so the previous board actually approved with DARPA money a $2.5 million new building that is being built right now for animal control.
So ARPA funds went to the animal control, huh?
1/8 of our DARPA funds went to that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's got to be paid somewhere, I suppose.
I'm not going to.
I mean, that's better than for property taxes. So,
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now, we're talking about the chat. Karen said something that I thought was interesting. She said, "With your trustee hat on, educate us all. If you're this, okay, it's a little typo here. But if the state sets a per pupil rate, how do millages come into play?"
So, Karen, and anybody out there, the millages that you vote on that supports your local school district cannot go to education. Education comes from the state of Michigan and the pure pupil. When you vote on millages for school districts, it's usually for operating
funds. Okay, that
right.
Makes sense.
Building improvements,
capital improvements. Yeah, capital stuff. Yeah,
good one, Scott. There's never a millage on the table that helps educate your children. It's always now with school of choice has created this monster.
Oh yeah,
it really has. And I'm a proponent of school of choice. I get it. You should be able to send your kids where it is, wherever you want. But it's created competitions among school districts.
We have a high school that has a billboard at 94.
Right. And I'll tell you, this is where
multiple.
AxMiTax talks about it, the overspending on football fields and digital scoreboards and it's crazy. But they're in competition for other school districts. They want your child to go, Mom and Dad, I want to go to that school. And so all those millages in Jackson's public schools really bad at it. My God, they're always got one on the ballot. Northwest is bad. We need to get a handle on that. Not anybody, not Kevin, not Scott, none of us here are ever going to say their millages are out of control. They are. I think we got to get a handle on that, and it won't be an immediate relief in your property taxes, but eventually it would be a relief to your property taxes. It really would. I do want to bring.
Well, I think Russ. I think your solution there. This is an actual that's an actual solution. Because what we can solve, we can't fix everything in one go. Like we just can't.
Everybody
people think Trump can just eliminate the deep state. It doesn't work that way. It's incremental improvements, solid incremental improvements that are going to create long-term solutions. And what you're talking about right there, making millages so that it's something that the vast majority of voters are actually weighing in on, that will create a solution that is tenable, durable, long-term.
Plus, they can only come at you then every 2 years. So when a school millage fails, they just come at you the next election cycle. That would stop that. They'll just keep coming at you until you approve what they're asking for. I've seen it. We've all seen it. And so that means when you're going to ask the public for money to increase their property taxes, you better come at that right, because you only got one bite at the apple. And by the way, let's give credit to Randy Guppy. Randy Guppy is the one that really, I think I was kind of in my mind already on it. And one day him and I got talking and Randy's like, Russ, I've been running on this for a while. And we're trying our best to do this. Somebody thought, well, maybe you guys could put together a citizens initiative. I'm not a citizens initiative guy. I think my access to my state representatives and state senators, the one that represents me, isn't going to take my phone call. But I am close to another district with Jonathan Lindsay. We want to use our influence that we have, that I wish everybody had, to make our legislators take this up. If Matt Maddox got one already out there, and I read it, and it might need some tweaking to it, it needs a hearing. It needs to be brought up. So that's where Randy and I are on right now. We both have a lot on our plate. If I could devote, every waking time to being in Lansing and pulling their chain, maybe it'd be different. But I think we're onto something there. We really, really are.
Well, and what you're saying is that the solutions, they come from the way that our whole constitutional system is set up, which is primarily legislative solutions are the solutions. And to do that, we've got to win elections. And, we're looking at, back to where you started with this is a distraction from winning in 2026. That's really what this is.
Well,
and we need to win. We need to increase our majority in the House. We got to get a majority in the Senate. We got to take the state executive. We must. I mean, this is, and we've got to win this. What will be a lifetime Senate seat if it goes.
So the last AxMiTax go around, I had a very smart executive committee member, just full of resources, that dove right in to AxMiTax, and I didn't see him during the campaign at all. He was just AxMiTax.
Yeah.
And by the way, he doesn't even associate with us anymore. He's even deeper into AxMiTax, and that's great. That's his thing. Okay, great. I get it. But boy, we could have used your help during the election cycle.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's like right now. So I think Friday, and I forget what they're calling it, the ballot initiative to make sure you got to have IDs to vote. Make sure only citizens vote. I think that
Mhm.
language was approved Friday,
Mhm.
and so
And I support that one. I think that's a good
Oh,
one.
absolutely.
well, and my point to this is I don't want to get distracted on citizens initiatives, but you take a citizen initiative like that goes hand in hand in what we're doing. We need to secure our elections.
Mhm.
You got to make sure citizens are voting so that the people who vote,
That's right.
citizens vote.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And that's also the kind of initiative that can win in a general election and could help our candidates to win as well. And
Well,
so
help
yeah, I
election
think
integrity for sure. I mean, I think
right.
it'll put a calm to that. And
That's right.
we're about an hour in, so I want to go back to Scott because you had mentioned your 2 points. And I was just curious on what your third one was because you had mentioned how it's a distraction, and then the Supreme Court ruling. What was your third point?
So,
You
well,
had?
so the first point was this distraction. Second point is taking away local control,
Okay.
and giving it to the state. And I want to just envision for a minute, kind of, one way that we can discern whether or not an idea is actually true is by following it through to its logical conclusion. So I'd like to just kind of imagine what would happen and paint the picture of what would actually happen if AxMiTax were passed. And now I have invited 3 times. I've invited Carla Wagner onto my show to debate this with me, and she's refused. And I asked James Dixon to either go on his show or come on mine to debate it, and he's refused. Because they don't want to think it through. They don't want their people to think it through. I mean, if they were really standing on the side of truth, then they'd have nothing to hide, and they'd be able to answer questions, and they could actually build their following by doing this. But I think that it's similar to the Christina Caramo thing, where she refused to answer any of my questions because it's kind of like this mind control group that they have that they've emotionally manipulated. And so let's reason together for just a minute and think through where this would go. You cut what they're talking about is taking $17 billion away from local communities that's generated within those local communities, stays in those local communities, taking that away and replacing it with $2.8 billion from the state, and then just a figure it out kind of attitude with the rest of it. Now, we already have some cities here in Michigan that are charging city income tax.
Yeah.
But another aspect of AxMiTax that's just so ludicrous, that just shows that this isn't really, this is against local control in local communities. This is really, I believe, a direct affront. There's nothing conservative about AxMiTax. This is a direct affront against local communities and the sovereignty of local government. Is that it prohibits any local municipal or county government or school district from doing any form of tax increase without 60% of the approval of the residents, of the voters in that district. And so it makes it basically, so it's making it impossible for them to actually raise tax. But if 60%, if this were to pass and 60% did come together, we would see income taxes increase dramatically. We would see, because they would have to in order to continue to survive. It's either that or there's no sheriffs, fire gets really way cut. Drains. I mean, drains is a big deal that most people don't think about until their yard floods and their property is destroyed because drains are plugged up. And I mean, this is the function of local government. Courts. This is something that would send criminals out onto the street because judges would not have the personnel to handle the caseload that they need. We would see prosecutors' budgets cut, so they wouldn't be prosecuting crime.
They're already struggling.
Yeah.
So crime would go up. We would see in civil suits, people, whether people are suing each other, there's something, they have rightful cause to sue somebody or whatever. We would see bad decisions in civil cases. Corruption would go up. Court cases would get offloaded to higher courts where we can vote on our local judges, but our vote is greatly diminished when it comes to state level or higher court judges.
Yeah.
So we lose our ability to hold our courts accountable. We lose our ability to hold our local police and sheriffs accountable. We may lose them altogether. And then that's replaced with the state police and the FBI. And we've seen what kind of tyranny when the state police or the state government and the federal government has that kind of power, and they don't have that local oversight and local protection. Because really, at a fundamental level, what local government does for us is it protects us from higher forms of government.
Mhm.
And so there is absolutely nothing conservative about AxMiTax. I think that I actually believe that it's part of the Agenda 30, which is Agenda 2030, which is a communist globalist agenda to part of it is to take out local government so that a higher, federal and state government can take control of every aspect of our lives.
Scott,
And
this is where I differ with you at times. I agree. All those threats are serious threats, serious concerns that everybody should take in consideration when signing this petition or voting for it if it makes it to the ballot. But I always think I err on the side of ignorance. I don't think there's a big scheme of and you do that, Scott. I get it. I understand. I worry about that too, but I don't think there's a big plot behind it. I think it's a group of people, and it's with Carla Wagner, and there's a whole group of people with them that they're just madder than hell over taxation, and they create an idea. They had to have heard it somewhere, what can we do to get rid of these damn property taxes as they're staring at them? I think it's a grassroots effort. Now, you're right.
Russ, I just want to say that I do agree. I don't think that I'm not alleging that Carla Wagner is a communist.
Feed into what you're saying.
But yeah, I do believe that through ignorance, she's fallen into a trap.
Right.
That she's promoting something that doesn't actually, it doesn't benefit it. It only hurts us.
Yeah. I agree. I worry about it tremendously. I really do. Something that I forgot to bring up, and I've been saying this since the first AxMiTax petition, is as much as I hate millages, and every millage probably in our community, not everyone, was voted on in a low turnout May ballot.
We've talked about it a lot.
By God, we even pay for the dog pound. But the voters of that community voted for that millage, whether you like it or not. They voted.
Right.
So now you're going to go and just eliminate what the voters of a community approve.
That's right.
Yep. That's the most ridiculous part right there. You've just taken the will of the people right away from them. I voted for that school millage. I love that school millage, and unfortunately it passed. But you've just cut them off at the kneecaps. How does the democratic process exist then?
Right.
I've been asking that from day one, and no one wants to even go near that one.
Yeah.
We have too many millages.
Yeah,
but they were passed by the voters.
I think what I at least what I wonder is how many of these millages that do pass up people are actually aware of, as far as they're like, well, the school needs a millage. Like, I didn't know that
they go on emotion.
Yeah. I didn't know the per pupil, that pays for the education, where the millages pay for the operations, and they mentioned that in the Facebook chat.
Yep.
That was news to me, but I think a lot of people go, oh, well, the school educates our kids, so we got to pass this millage.
Well, you don't ever want to say no when it comes to children or pets or police and fire. And
emotion.
I've said it earlier too. I like my public safety where I live. I really do. They do a great job. They're very expensive.
But they cover a huge amount of
but once
area.
I've learned, and years ago, I was a volunteer firefighter, and we always wanted new equipment. But once you start saying yes, they'll just keep coming back and asking and asking and asking we need this new thing and this new thing. And no one ever wants to say no because it's our public safety, Emotion plays into it, especially when it comes to schools and children's.
Yeah, kids.
And
kids
parks,
and old people.
In parks, and we always, Scott, I know, Scott, you want to take care of children and old people too.
Absolutely.
In dogs and cats. But I think we got to wrap our minds around what's necessary. Now, that's like these AxMiTax initiative here. I think they know that there's going to be a huge shortfall, but they're so pissed off. They've had just enough that let's just pull the plug on something and figure it out later. to adjust society, adjust the way we do things, whether there's a bad outcome to that or not. I think that's how mad people are. I understand it. I get it. You know,
but it's also very misguided.
I think
And
so too.
and I think that if we want to be a free people, I've been saying this from the very beginning, we have to be statesmen. And as statesmen, we have to be able to think rationally. And we have to be able to have a debate with each other and to weigh and to consider both sides of an argument. If you're not capable psychologically of considering the other side of the argument, then you're not thinking rationally. And that's what's going on. And that's the reason I think why Carla doesn't want to debate me.
So that's what I wanted to bring up. That's sad. By the way, we're going to try to invite Carla on next week. That is sad that, okay, you're not coming at this as a crazy person, Scott. You have rational, reasonable concerns that need to be addressed. Okay. And for Carla or anybody not to join your podcast and to talk about this rationally, it ain't like you're going to get in an argument or be mad at one another. That really bothers me. I will say though, John Smith, who's real close to this show, and he's a good friend of mine. When I announced that you were going to be on, John was like, "Hey, John's fills in for me when I can't make it or something." He's part of the show. Yep. He was our guest last week.
He's a gentleman in the chat, by the way, Scott.
Yeah, and he was like, "Hey, let me on, Russ. I'd like to talk to Scott about this." And I told him, I said, "Let me think about it. I'm not certain I want to do that." And I had communicated with Kevin. Sometimes when you get a third person, too many people, it screws it up. John would have been very professional in his questioning with you, Scott. I think it would have been fine. And we probably maybe could have talked about some things that need to be talked about. But John Smith isn't Carla Wagner.
True.
You know, John Smith isn't spearheading AxMiTax. I guess he's supportive of it. But that bothers me that someone like Carla wouldn't jump on and debate you on that.
Well, I think a big difference.
I don't want to host that, by the way.
Yeah, I think a big difference too is that you can be supportive of not having property taxes and not be supportive of AxMiTax in either way. You know, I just through the grapevine heard good friend of the show, Jonathan Lindsay, was in support-ish of AxMiTax, but he said it wasn't perfect. It need, and I think that's a good way to go about it. And Scott, I don't think that you're against it. I mean, I'm sure taxes.
I'd love to see.
We got to make that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I see in the background there. You live in a lake community. I'm sure your property taxes are. I live on a lake too. They're not pretty.
Yeah. No, it's we don't have a lake improvement board, so there's not a special millage that way. But
but still,
I mean, it is higher for sure than something that's not lakefront.
Right.
And
we all pay.
Right. And this is this is small. It's not an all sports lake, but I would love to see property taxes lowered. But I absolutely believe 100% that abolishing property taxes, that there is no world in especially Michigan and I said maybe it could happen in Florida, but I'm pretty dubious of that too. I'd be interested to see that as an experiment. In Nebraska, they actually have it on the ballot for 26 to abolish property taxes. I think it would be just as bad there. And this is part of a more national thing, that there are a lot of people suddenly just buying into this belief that property taxes are immoral and bad. Now, the reality is that all taxes, I mean, this is why I think we are conservatives, is because we believe in small government, because we see how, tax is evil. Like tax is, it's a necessary evil, but it's still an evil. And so we need to be very wise about how we do it. And I would love to see, I think that the better tax to confront is income tax.
I think so too.
And, let's work towards abolishing income tax in Michigan.
That's been proven to work in other states. It's been proven.
That's right.
To be helpful.
I agree. And I'm glad you brought that up, because actually, actually speaking with Carla. She brought up a good point, and I wanted to bring it up, is that, cutting income tax sounds great. And I'm a sports fan, so like in Florida, that's why all the big names go to Florida, because when there's no income tax on a $500 million, that's a lot of money.
4%,
and plus you get to
4%.
hang out in Florida. But some of the biggest tax burdens are on senior citizens who don't pay income tax, so that doesn't benefit them really.
So Kevin and I talked about this before the show. Kevin's got a 91 or 2 or
92. She's
92-year-old grandmother, lived in the same home longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
And
she paid $500 for it.
A lot of people float out the idea that, seniors over a certain age, and who knows what that would be, not pay property taxes. And on the surface, I'm like, yeah, then, sounds good. His grandma has paid for a long time. But then that shifts the burden to the young families that have 3-4 children. That burden's going to get shifted somewhere. At least now it's evenly put out to the property owners. You can homestead. At least your grandma's homesteaded. If you own a property down the road in a rental, well, it's not homesteaded, but you're making income off that. But some properties you don't make income in, and it's not homesteaded. That's your business, your problem. But Kevin,
you want to
the elimination of income tax would not help the senior because your Social Security isn't taxed.
Well, the thing about income tax, if you eliminate income tax, that's at the state level. Yeah. And so that's going to cause the state to figure out how to make cuts at the state level.
Yeah. And they receive that money, Kevin.
Yeah.
The state does.
Which is the other thing that I wanted to bring up real quick is that, because like I said, I boggled my brain the last couple of days researching things, and it's like, it almost seems like, dropping the property tax would force local governments to figure it out.
Well, okay, but the way
that there are governments that spend way too much, local governments that spend way too much money on stupid stuff. And
I don't know that that's true, though. Is that really true?
Well, they'd have to, right? Yeah. Or they'd collapse.
Sure, there's stories about like stupid building projects and stuff like that.
It exists.
But I think that if you really look at so far everybody that I've talked to that has made that argument, that I've asked, okay, have you looked at your city's and your county's budget to find out where that waste is?
And they haven't.
Universally, no.
Yeah. And
they changed the subject.
So
so until you do that, and that's what needs to happen first. You eliminate the waste and find out what is needed. I mean, if you're going to talk about seniors, for example, probably the first thing to go, in addition to parks, which is very valuable. I mean, Carla talks about how wasteless splash pads and
we do
pickleball courts are, but rarely do property taxes actually go towards that. That's those improvements that we've seen over the last several years. Most of that is from DARPA funds, but that's an aside. The one of the first things to go would be senior services, and we do in our county we do Meals on Wheels for seniors who can't afford they can't drive and they can't afford food. This and that is a far greater value than the few $100s that they might be paying in property tax. So if you really do care about seniors, you're not going to cut and eliminate
senior services
that just figure it out, hold a bake sale.
Local government,
right. No, that does make sense.
The state's not trickling that
down.
What
did we do before Meals on Wheels?
We let old people starve. I don't know.
Yeah, that's.
People didn't live as long too. I mean, we've been doing this. Our life expectancy has gone up, and in part because of the benefit of local government. I mean, when we really look at what local government is doing, if you really study the budget, there is a lot of good. I mean, the health department, there's so much that I dislike about what various health departments did in promoting vaccines and all that kind of stuff. Right. But the health department is also responsible for making sure that people aren't dumping toxic chemicals on their farm that's going to get into the groundwater and poison people. And this is, and we pay, for example, $20,000 on average in our county for these toxic hazardous materials drop-offs, where people can just come in and they can drop off, 55-gallon drum of whatever chemical's been in their barn forever, or a bunch of batteries or old laptops, whatever. And those cost us about $20,000 for each one, but it saves in the long run. It saves in terms of people's health. It improves the health and well-being of people. I mean, every program that I've seen, that I've looked at, I haven't seen one aside from animal control that's like, oh, that would actually be logically, I'm taking the emotion out of it, logically, is one that I think we could actually remove. And
I would give them $320K.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Now you said $20,000, but that's, obviously, per site or whatever,
for each one,
and that's split up, obviously in the taxes per citizen, per property owner. And so, you're really, if you break that down, that's just drop in the bucket to not have to live next to a pile of toxic waste.
Absolutely.
Guys, you said on your stream last week, being a county commissioner, same role here as a trustee, everybody claims corruption in local government, and I in my township, I serve with some individuals, I'll tell you that. Okay. But I haven't seen corruption. I haven't seen financial corruption. I've seen a group of people that I don't always get along with really care about how we spend the money. Now, I disagree on some of the money that they spent. Okay. That's always going to happen. But yes, Scott, you said it. Yeah, we probably have a department heads that make too much money. We probably spend a little bit too much on this service or that service. But at least I have the opportunity to try to correct that. And the citizens have the opportunity to try to correct that. We know there's corruption in some local governments. I haven't seen it where I live. You claim you haven't seen it where you live. Yes, we know that you probably get into some of your cities. Matter of fact, the city of Jackson smells of corruption
constantly.
But I'm not there. I don't live in the city. I haven't went through. My God, it took me long enough to go through my budget. I'm not going through the city's budget.
That's what we have John Wilson for.
And everybody is welcome to see that budget. It is there to see. It is even posted on the state website. And the problem is people, I'm not a budget guy. Okay. I read that every single page. I kind of wonder if anybody else did. I kind of wonder if all the township board members did. I do wonder that. I'm not saying I understood it. It's long. It's difficult. It sucks. I'd rather read something else. But
it is boring.
That's what you have to do, not only as a commissioner or a trustee, but as a citizen. Like I said, not one person called me about the budget. Not one person made a comment during the public hearing process.
Community involvement, like I said earlier, so it needs to be.
If you got a bitch, you got to stop bitching. You know, and just to wrap this up, and I'll let you say some final words, Scott. The biggest concern that I have is waiting on the state of Michigan to decide how they're going to fund local government. Hurts my insides. I look at the 7 board members I serve with. We have a concern. We do have an accountant. We have an administrator, and he cares too. All right. I think he spends too much. I think he gets paid too much. Okay. But we had control of that. I don't want to wait on calling Kathy Schmaltz. My God, when you guys going to pass the budget, we need to know how much money we're going to get down here in Leone Township. That sounds horrible.
Yeah. Well, that, and like we said before, the people in the community know you, can approach you. They have your number. Where, I had to contact Kathy regarding something completely different. But I just sent an email, and who knew? I could have never heard back. Yeah. I can't go knock on her door.
It's easy. It's easier to get a hold of a county commissioner or a township trustee than it is your state representative. Yeah. And getting a hold of your state representative isn't that difficult.
Kathy got right back. Her office got right back to me. She was really good about it.
But it is easier to get a hold of me or Scott.
Oh yeah, like I said, they can knock on your door. You might see them down at the local pub, or at the grocery store or the party store.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
or to be heard, to actually be heard by the deciding body. You can go in during public time of the meeting and you can be heard, and anybody can. And if you present a rational argument, especially if it's not a hate-filled, silly tirade, if you're presenting a rational argument, you can actually really be persuasive.
You know what? And we do listen.
Yeah.
As long as you're not a crazy person. And sometimes people are just mad enough to get a little crazy, so I get that. But if you come at with detailed points, I know the board that I sit on, we listen and we weigh that out. We really do. It's on our conscience. Sometimes it's difficult that they'll come at you with something that doesn't make sense or emotion wise, and it's difficult to rule against that. But we listen. I don't know anybody. I don't know one county commissioner doesn't like a phone call in Jackson. I don't know a township board member that won't take a phone call.
Like Scott mentioned about emotion. That's really what it is. And I mean, although it's a completely different situation in a lot of ways, at where I work, I have a 24-hour rule. If something is high emotion, well, I'm not going to deal with it. And the person I'm dealing with we're not going to deal with it at all. I want to act out of emotion. And because when you act out of emotion, you make silly decisions. And so 24 hours, you think about it. I might have been mad about it, but the next day I'm probably not mad. Now I'm thinking more rationally.
Hey, Scott, did the local animal control drop off the dogs to your house and say, fine, you take care of them?
That year and a half dog.
No, I think the UPS guy just came and the dogs had to say.
Give us some final words. And Scott, let me tell you, we could talk about this for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and absolutely plug anything you've got going on or coming up as well.
Yeah, do your
thing. Well, yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's just I really enjoyed this conversation. I think we talked about, and at its root, local government is very, very important. And it's also very, very misunderstood. And that was the reason why I run. Most of what we talked about, I was ignorant of 6 months ago. And so I really recommend
8 hours ago
that you that I really recommend that to anyone, that you go to your county commission, your township trustee meetings, your wherever you live, get involved, just go and see what the issues are. Ask questions, ask when the budgeting process is, find out, ask to see the budget. And, if you want to see lower taxes, the place to start is with the budget. Look at how and learn how the money that's coming in is being spent. And you may find examples of, just waste and, waste, fraud, and abuse. Chances are you're not going to find as much as the Doge was finding in the federal government, because there's no accountability at the federal government, but there is accountability at the local level.
Well, hopefully locally you don't have a trillions of dollar budget either. So
right. But even as a percentage, I mean, hundreds of thousands, even, where money is just being wasted. I have not seen anything like that at all. And I've been looking for it. Get involved. Just get involved. Think through clearly. Let's not just say, all property tax is evil and property tax is a particular kind of evil. All tax is evil. Okay, sure. But it's a necessary evil. And we live in a world of trade-offs, not solutions. And let's be rational. Let's just think things through. If you cannot think through the opposing side of an argument, then you've probably been brainwashed. And so let's just try to set that aside, humble ourselves. And I'm speaking to myself too. We need to humble ourselves and consider all sides of an argument as we pursue what is really true, because we can't hold it. We can't own it. But all we can do is try to pursue it. And that's what we have to do. We have to challenge our assumptions and really do our best to be statesmen, to have the kind of conversations that we're having today, and to try to do what's right and to do our best. And that's all we can do.
Your truth.
Yeah, just pursue the bigger truth that's bigger than what we can hold on to. So thanks. Good. And as far as things coming up, I'm working on I'm actually writing a book. I've got and so I'm working on that. I've got I'm working on a story right now about Charlie Kirk and Turning Point.
Oh boy.
And so that's a big one. It's going to take me a bit, but and something I've been biting on my tongue on for over a year. But I think now's the time to bring it out, especially given some of the things that Charlie has done and Turning Point has done over the last week or so.
So, a year ago, you've been plopping in Turning Point a little bit, and I'm like, you don't talk bad about Turning Point, Scott. Don't do it. I'm a Turning Point guy. But I knew something might be coming, so it'll be interesting to hear it.
I've challenged
Maybe it's
Charlie.
something I should know.
Yeah. I've challenged Charlie Kirk to a debate multiple times publicly just because I'm not a college kid. But
I want to throw something out there real quick about Turning Point. They need to put their money where their mouth is. And I know
they've got the money.
And I know in the last election cycle, they were somewhat involved in the election cycle here in Michigan. They were kind of Johnny come lately. And I know every Turning Point representative. I know them all. And I like them. They're great guys. But it's not easy to get a hold of them. And it's not easy to really get something out of them. A more controversial locally and probably statewide is Americans for Prosperity. I've had a lot of pushback on this, but AFP puts their money where their mouth is. When you call them, they're here to help, or you help them, they'll help you, back and forth. That's my problem with Turning Point, and I'm sure you're going to expose something that's going to make me mad, Scott, but then again, I enjoy hearing it, so.
Well, like you talked about, it's important when you have a podcast or a show in general, just to make people mad and then be like, but I kind of like the guy. And I think that's important. Also, just real quick, if you've got time, Scott, if you don't mind, you had mentioned to Russ before the show via text message that you may want to address some things.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's just,
you'd like to do that now. As long as you've got time, Russ, then let's do it.
Yeah. If you want, it's an interesting story, because it illustrates how, when I got into this, I knew that I was talking about and criticizing people that don't like to be criticized. But it's been very surprising to me, the lengths to which they will go to try to silence somebody. And so there's a network of people who are not well known at all, who are like psychological hitmen that work on X specifically to identify and target people who are speaking out and doing research against what I call the Flynn Network, which isn't all people who are directly connected with Flynn, but that it's a network that he is kind of a figurehead of. And I don't think that he's like the ringleader or anything like that, but everybody really knows who General Flynn is. So I call it the Flynn Network. But it's a network of people that I believe are connected with the intelligence community. And that this all kind of goes back to the 6 ways from Sunday that Chuck Schumer told Rachel Maddow right after Trump was inaugurated in 2017, where he says, that he kind of threatened Trump, said that, the intelligence community has 6 ways of from Sunday at getting back at you.
I remember that.
He was really stupid to be going after the deep state. And part of what they do is they infiltrate an operation. They infiltrate a cause or a state party, like what Mike Labadie was doing. I mean, he had self-professed ties to the intelligence community.
Yep.
And they infiltrate that cause or community or organization. And then they run chaos operations from within it to destroy it. And that's what they did with the election integrity movement. They deliberately injected all kinds of bad lawsuits, lies, all kinds of things to derail the election integrity movement. That's what they did to the health and freedom movement. Yeah.
Remember the
Kraken.
Yeah, exactly. And those lawsuits were designed to fail. And
right.
they were even filed in the wrong jurisdiction. Everything about them.
People are crazy. And then it didn't get to the root cause of the problem with election integrity.
Well, like you mentioned before, Scott, distraction.
Right.
Watch what this hand's doing while this hand does other things.
Exactly. And these are long-standing intelligence tactics, and that are military employees, and that it's my thesis that they've been doing this against MAGA, against Trump, and against American citizens, and they've been doing it from within. So they've infiltrated. We saw how they infiltrated and what the outcome was in the Michigan Republican Party, and then I started looking at other states and saw the exact same thing happening in other states all across the country, and it's still going on.
Arizona.
Bernadette Smith, our co-chair, is. She's on the board of directors for the America Project, which is the organization that was started in 2021 by Flynn and Byrne. And Patrick Byrne, by the way, is, I believe, a lifelong communist. He speaks fluent Mandarin. He was his theses were in Marxism and Maoism, and he took his first job for the CCP when he was 17 years old. He has a giant picture of Mao on his in his ski chalet in Colorado, and his cat's name is Che Guevara. So, I mean, these aren't he's no libertarian like he claims.
Scott, those are the things that keep me hooked. It really does. It is the things that keep me hooked.
Right. And so anyways, all of that is kind of the backdrop for what's happened to me, which is there were these operatives who they have connections with people that are very close with Flynn. And they started talking, and one of them is an overt Nazi, and there's another one in Arizona that's written some hit pieces about me, claiming that I was part of a terrorist sex cult, which is completely false. This Nazi guy, though, he told me back in February that I had some legal problems coming against me over my candidate filing when I filed to run for commissioner. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know that I was under investigation. I didn't know anything. He said, oh, yeah, it's coming. The very next week, I get a phone call from the local reporter, the Lapeer County Press. And he said that he had just talked to the prosecutor and that there were charges being filed against me for falsifying my candidate filing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I live at the house that I filed at. And I was just so confused by it. I ended up hiring an attorney, a very expensive attorney, criminal defense attorney, to help make it just, I figured that even at the expense, the best thing to do is just to nip this in the bud and make it go away. And so this is the kind of attorney that could do that. And I did a GoFundMe to help pay for that. And it ended up, there were never any charges filed. And just about a month ago,
so all it was an investigation.
It was an investigation that was actually directed. And so Dana Nessel assigned a special prosecutor to investigate me. And these Flynn operatives knew before, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. I've never talked to anybody. I've been asking, have you ever heard of a special prosecutor talking to a member of the press and telling them there are charges against somebody when they're not?
No,
there have never been charges filed against me. I do not understand.
Brand, though, for what you're talking about.
No, but on the flip side, I was just reading a Detroit News article yesterday. All 6 candidates for Detroit mayor, there's accusations that none of them live in the city of Detroit.
Well, why would they?
Gosh.
But we're going to worry about Scott McMahan in Lapeer County.
Right.
You ever been to Lapeer County? There's not even a major city. I went to
There's Lapeer. That's not a major city. Lapeer's smaller than Jackson. So.
I went to your Lincoln Day, the Lapeer County Lincoln Day dinner. It was in a town I never heard of. It was a nice, great little town and a nice little banquet hall there. But yeah, they're going to worry about Scott McMahon when we got 6 candidates with a major news outlet saying none of them live in the city of Detroit.
Yeah, but they're Democrats, so
right.
But
yeah, and it's just it's odd. So and I really believe that the only reason why it did go away, I think that they were going to file criminal charges, was because I hired the attorney that I did, who has 100% success rate with this acquittal rate with this.
Any pushback
prosecutor, but
they don't want to play that.
Scott, I admire your courage. Whether I disagree with you sometimes or not, I admire your courage.
Thank you.
You've displayed more courage. You got a family and a life, and you take lawfare. You've been through lawfare. You've been through, I'm sure, more things than we know of, and you have the courage to continue on to at least expose what you think is is wrong. Whether everybody agrees or not, I do admire that courage.
Strong conviction.
It's more courage than I have. Kevin will tell you.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
he's a pussy about it.
Yes, this podcast has gotten me in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten me in trouble with candidates for U.S. Senate and other podcasters, and we won't even go into that. And I'm over here trying to be careful, walk a fine line. I told Kevin before we went on this, I said, Kevin, I can't support this elimination of property tax initiative, but I think I'm going to play the fence on this a little bit if I can. And I said, Kevin, you come at it, because Kevin's been a pretty good proponent of AxMiTax. But then again, I knew once we got in the stream here that I would just probably speak the truth on how I feel. You said it, I don't know, I think with Matt Wilk, you step on toes because that's the way you dance. And sometimes I'm a little afraid of that sometimes. So, I mean, I admire your courage. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Well, I admire your guys' courage just for having me on, because
we did have.
Trust me, I don't care.
Kevin and I did have an interesting weekend. I did have people sending me, a big long hit piece that you're a terrible person and a sex cultist and on and on. And you've admitted you've admitted on your stream that you belonged to a cult at one time, and yet you've been a pretty much open book to the best I can tell, or maybe is all you need to be necessary. But one of the people that sent it to me was like, hey, we did some background research and this is what we came up with. And when I was reading it, I'm like, this is someone's hit piece. Yeah. This isn't background information.
You read the one about being a snake oil salesman.
Right.
Yeah. So you know.
And that's Brian Ferentz. He is a one of these operatives that's definitely part of the Flynn Network. And
you can keep my $5 a month for now, Scott.
Thank you. I'll do my best to continue to earn it, and I would very much appreciate it.
You could throw some money at our Ko-Fi.
Right. Yeah. If anyone wants to support the show at ko-fi.com/STTP-pod, you're more than welcome. Or right here on Rumble or YouTube. Well, nope, not YouTube. We're not monetized there.
Anyways, we got to cut it loose. I've got things I got to do.
Having me.
I got some announcements to make, and thank you very much for coming on the show, Scott.
We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hey,
Scott.
Hopefully I run into you soon one day. It's been a while.
That'd be great.
I don't mind talking to you in person.
Yeah, I don't mind that either. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys very much. It was a lot of fun.
Bye, Scott.
Bye, Scott.
Bye.
Did we settle anything, Kevin? We never
do. Like you said, we talked about it before, and I came in very on the fence either way, and I still am about AxMiTax. I came in on the fence about Scott, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
but I think you were correct, and when you led into the whole, his bravery and his courage to bring this stuff up is commendable.
I don't have,
nothing else.
I don't have that kind of courage.
No,
I mean, come on, he is leveled against General Flynn.
Yeah.
And that is not just General Flynn being a former general.
Right.
His network of people in his communication skills. He's got a network of podcasters and all that. You start screwing around there. You're probably going to get some pushback.
Yeah,
you're going to get some pushback.
You might get a Clinton heart attack.
And it's not just Russ and Kevin be mad pushback. We're talking big pushback.
People actually matter.
Lawfare.
Yeah,
they leveled lawfare against him, and even John. I think John's been pretty critical of John Smith of Scott, and rightfully so. That's fine. Yeah. Even when the investigation was dropped on that, even John dropped a line publicly. Congratulations, you're getting around lawfare. Yeah, lawfare's got to stop.
He said today in the chat. He said, I don't remember exactly what it was. Basically, like thanks Scott and congratulations on the drop case.
By the way, if you don't like Scott, don't watch his show.
Yeah, that's why that's why I led into that last little bit, because we talked about him wanting to address it, and I'm like, let's address that in general like that, and I think that was a good way to do it.
I think there was some things. All right, I wanted to say this before Scott left. You know what? You want to support AxMiTax? Do it. That's why we're Americans.
That's why.
And
that's democracy.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Scott's way wrong. And it'll be a great way to reform how government funds all the crap that we fund. Scott admits, I admit, government's bloated. Your local government's bloated. But at least as myself being elected on a township, at least I have a say.
Right.
And you have a say.
Right.
When people don't even call me about the budget process, not one phone call. And when we have a public hearing before we vote on it, not one person speaks up about it, that tells me they don't give a shit. And it's the people that keep pushing these millages through that's bloated our property tax bills.
Absolutely.
It's the voters. And putting them on low turnout ballots is the trick that they use.
Yep.
And I don't get why. I don't understand why. Especially now with absentee ballots, and they call them AVs, you can have your ballot every time there's an election of anything in your community. It'll be sent to your dining room table in your mailbox. I asked my clerk after our May election to renew our public safety millage. By the way, there was no increase because we were able to take marijuana money and buy a $900,000 fire truck.
Right.
If not, we would have had an increase in our public. That's the bullshit to get you on too.
Yeah.
But okay, great. I asked my clerk, how many absentee ballots were returned? It was less than 10%.
I believe it.
That means their ballot sat on your dining room table of all those people that have applied for an EV. So it starts with education. People have to vote. If all the people that are in favor of a new pickleball court run to support a millage for it, and the people that are against it stay home, that's what you freaking get.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Now, what I was going to bring up is, I don't know. I don't think that you should be surprised.
Dave Jones is going to be really mad at me.
Yeah, normally. Yeah. But I don't think you should be surprised that no one reached out to you before you were elected, before you got involved in politics. How often did you contact your commissioner to look at the budget?
So probably more often than most, but not as frequently as people would think.
Or probably should.
So prior to 10 years ago, I pop into a township meeting every now and then and had no say. In the last 10 years, as the years go by, you can ask pretty much every county commissioner we have. I've called them on the phone on this issue or that issue.
Right.
Or I've been there in public comment, but most people don't do that. Yeah. Now, I live in a township, Kevin. You're born and raised there.
Born and raised.
It isn't uncommon for us to have 20, 25, 30 people at a township meeting.
There for a while, there was way more than that even. That's a little haul, too.
Often, we might have one or two public comments. Most townships might have 3 people at their township meetings.
Oh, yeah, like Waterloo Township? I don't even know.
I could call the clerk right now. I'll call Bill right now. I bet you tell you there's 3 if you're lucky. Your grandpa in the township,
that's a tiny township.
He said often there'd be 2 people in the audience.
Yeah, I'm sure there's townships where there's nobody.
Right. So involvement is key, man.
Community involvement. Absolutely.
And if you don't, all right, I have testified in Lansing in front of House committees and Senate committees. It's very difficult, very stressful. You got to frickin' drive to Lansing to do it. Could you imagine if you had to do that every year just to fund basic services in your township, where now at least you can come to your township meeting, call your township trustee or commissioner on the phone and have a discussion about it.
That's what elected officials are for.
That's where local comes in.
I mean,
that would destroy local. that's where I'm highly concerned.
It's something I didn't think about in the whole ordeal.
A year ago, I didn't think of that.
I think that's very, I'm not big on government overreach. I don't need government to be any bigger than it is, and that makes government bigger. It makes bigger government more powerful.
Boy, go testify in front of a Senate subcommittee.
Right.
Holy shit. You got to drive to Lansing. You got to find a place to park. You go in this big, beautiful building. You don't know where the hell you're going. And you finally find it. Somebody shows you where the room is. And then you put in a slip. And you're face to face with a whole bunch of state senators.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to present yourself like you know what the hell you're talking about. It's way easier to do it at a township level.
I imagine. I can only imagine. So,
Kevin, good stream.
Yeah, it was a great stream. What do you got from the...
Get this. Quiet in Jackson GOP.
Really?
We had a semi-successful Mike Rogers event.
That's how the turnout was?
Yeah, should have been more. People don't give a shit, but should have been more. But it was good. It was fun.
I slept through it.
Our volunteers really stepped up, made some wonderful food, and had both rooms looking great. Mike Rogers took every freaking question.
Really?
Even from the biggest critics.
Yeah.
Even from the biggest critics. Matter of fact, he went long. I had to push him away from the microphone.
Oh.
He is not afraid to address your concerns.
That's
now,
important.
He might give you a half-assed politician answer.
But every politician is going to do that.
But he did well. I was proud of everybody. I was proud of the people that attended. I was proud of Mike Rogers and his team. And I'll say it right here and now. If Jonathan Lindsay does not run for U.S. Senate, I'm all in on Mike Rogers.
You've said that before.
I'm waiting for my boy, Jonathan Lindsay. I think Jonathan Lindsay would be a better U.S. Senator than anybody in any name that's been floated out there so far.
I can't think of a political position or a political office that he could hold that he wouldn't be.
He's
better.
a badass. Now, do I think the timing's right for him? I don't think it is. But I'm all in on Jonathan is. If not, I'm on Mike Rogers' team. I'm there. Right. By the way, speaking of teams, I hate the term. I am a county captain.
Captain. Oh my captain.
For candidate for Michigan Governor Tom Leonard. Kevin, they're all the same. I like Eric Mesbit a lot. What a nice guy. I do not know Mike Cox. I've seen some videos. I did meet Mike Cox at a Lincoln Day dinner. I didn't have a conversation with him.
Right.
And they're all similar, but one thing that popped out to me with Tom Leonard was on his website, he has discussed the elimination of special elections for millages and bonds. He's the only one that has addressed it. It's right on his website. But something that's got me somewhat worried, he's been talking a little bit about supportive of the elimination of income tax. But I think he wants to do it in a legislative process so that every I is dotted and T is crossed.
Right.
And I'd be more supportive if it was through the legislative process than through a citizen's initiative. But I'm even worried about that. I'd even be worried. Now, listen to this guy, I'd be worried about that. But anyways, Tom Leonard for governor. I'm in on Tom. Maybe it's too early, but that's what I've done. But anyways, we voted not to meet. Jackson GOP will not meet in August. We will not have an Under the Oak Speaker Series. We do not have any really public events for the rest of the month or August. But we do have the Jackson County Fair the 3rd through the 9th, I believe. And we need volunteers to man our fair booth that we put people in. You don't have to be a member of the Jackson GOP. If you want, you want to hang out at our fair booth with me, get a hold of me. I'll get you on the calendar. You can go to jacksongop.org.
And I got that up right now for you.
We have, what do you call that? Schedule genie or something. And you can plop your name in and we'll go, well, who's that guy? But hey, we'll meet at the fair. The fair is a big, long week. We do man the fair booth. That's the only thing coming up in August. I just booked, guess who? Tom Leonard.
Yeah.
For the September Under the Oak Speaker Series. And I think that's September 11th. And that is a significant date.
Yeah, that's a date.
Tom Leonard will be here for that, and the flyer will be out later. Want to keep up to date of what's going on in the Jackson GOP? JacksonGOP.org. I'm done.
Awesome. I mean, that was the quickest announcements ever. A little bit long on the stream, but I'm
looking forward to having a slow August.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fair is a bit of my.
We're going to stream live at the fair. We haven't figured out what we're going to do.
We're going to figure something out.
And I think we're going to probably do something with Star Stripes and Straight Talk.
Yeah, I think it would be good to bring those guys in because they're kind of our counterpart.
They might not do it. Dave Jones is real mad at me now, probably over this AxMiTax thing.
Dave Jones is mad at a lot of things.
He's not. He's the nicest guy ever.
He is. He's super nice, but I see him getting worked up.
The best thing about a guy like Dave Jones is we can disagree on something and still be friends.
Yeah.
And often that is not the case. I'm dealing with that to a certain degree in the Jackson GOP. We just had a long to talk, and I think all of us are I'm like, guys, we're all friends.
Yeah, it's just dealing with so many personalities.
We're all friends,
you
and
know.
we're all out for the same thing. We all love Trump, so
And
let's just
at the end of the day, you guys all seem to work it out pretty well.
we all are all friends. So.
Guys, we'll be back next Monday, 2:00, like always, or 2-ish. We were on time today, so
we were right on time. You were a professional producer over there today, Kevin, because of the last debacle we tried.
I wanted to make sure Scott.
That was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that still haunts me. Him and the Ryan Kelly interview are the two.
You know what? The Ryan Kelly one bothers me. Let's get Ryan back.
Yeah, I'd love to have.
But
Ryan
anyways, I got to think about it. Mm-hmm. We should probably have Carla on next week.
Yeah. I've got her number. Like I said, she called me at 8:30 this morning. Which 8:30 in the morning for Kevin?
Yeah,
that's sketchy.
Oh, Kevin, why don't you book the Carla Wagner?
I'll get a hold of her. I think because I invited her or anybody in her organization. But
I want Carla.
Okay. I'll give her a call this afternoon.
Tell her Russ wants Carla.
10-4.
I know Carla a little bit.
Yeah. Check out JXN GOP. That's down in the description. All of Scott's stuff is down in the description as well. Bigger Truth Media. You can check him out. He's got a lot of really great stuff. Like I said,
hang on to your britches, man. When you
don't
go
do
there,
too much of it in one day.
To hang on to your britches.
You guys make sure you follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Rumble, like the streams, do all that stuff. It helps us out a ton. We really appreciate it. And ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/STTP pod. If you want to throw us some shekels, that'd be sweet. So beyond that, that's all I got. And we'll see you guys next week. Here it is. I moved it. I will see you guys all next week.
You got a new monitor.
Yeah, I'm so used to limping along. So you guys all have a good one, and we're out of here.
See you guys.
You've been listening to a Grandma's Boy Media Production. Welcome to the Stick to the Plan podcast. Michigan's elite political podcast is about to begin, live from the birthplace of the Republican Party.